Have you ever looked at the map of the world or read the ancient scriptures and felt like something was missing? Like the borders were shown today or the histories were taught in school don't tell the full story? They don't. Because if you want to understand the true genealogical and physical layout of the world, you have to look past modern politics. You have to look at how ancient bloodlines, hidden forbidden sciences, maternal whispers, and a deliberate genetic transformation completely altered the appearance of the ancient world. Let's look at the evidence together.
Look, if we want to get to the absolute bottom of this, we have to start by completely tearing down the way we've been trained to view history. Modern political borders, standard academic groupings, they completely flatten what actually happened. When you take the ancient historical records, the pre-canonical theological manuscripts and the actual science of environmental and genetic manipulation and lay them out side by side, a completely different narrative locks into place. Let's start with the table of nations in Genesis 10. That is the original framework of human migration right after the Great Flood. But over the last few centuries, colonial academics stepped in. They came up with something called the 19th century Shemitic hypothesis. Why? To purposely distort these biblical bloodlines to fit their own geopolitical agendas. If you want to bypass their lies and uncover who these populations actually are, you have to look at the oldest historical logs and authoritative texts, like the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Let's look at the facts. The Shemitic bloodline originally comprised highly melanated, dark-skinned populations. These were the original people who built and populated the ancient Near East, Mesopotamia, and the Arabian Peninsula. If you open up the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, it explicitly defines Shem as the direct progenitor of the Hebrews, the Chaldeans and the Assyrians, the Elamites and the Arameans. It also notes that his specific line carried a distinct, chosen spiritual blessing. Now think about this for a second. Put 2 and 2 together. If the Zondervan Bible Dictionary explicitly states that Negroes are excluded from the line of Ham, where does that leave them? By a direct process of elimination, the genealogical deduction is clear. The vast network of sub-Saharan black populations, including the West African tribes and the sprawling Bantu-speaking nations of Central, East and Southern Africa, belong directly to the line of Shem. And this isn't just a theory, it is heavily documented by early history. Look at the journals of the 18th century and the 18th century and the 19th century explorers and missionaries. Men like David Livingstone, Thomas Edward Bowditch, and later Joseph J. Williams in his groundbreaking work, Hebrewisms of West Africa. When these Europeans first pushed deep into the African interior, away from the coasts, they were shocked by what they found. They documented native tribes like the Ashanti and the Igbo practicing strict Levitical laws. They practiced circumcision, observed rigid purification rituals, and maintained oral histories that traced their ancestry straight back to the ancient Shemitic Israelites. And we have dates for this. This timeline is completely anchored by the Portuguese shipping logs right from the height of the Inquisition between 1493 and 1496, when the true descendants of the line of Judah were violently expelled from Spain and Portugal. King Manuel I took an extreme step. He systematically deported thousands of their children and converting adults, loading them onto ships bound for the West African coastal islands of Sao Tome and Principe and the Senegambian coast of Cape Verde. From those coastal drop points, these exiles moved directly inland, blending their ancient Shemitic heritage with the existing interior Israelite populations who were already there. So, who are the actual descendants of Ham? The dictionary and ancient migrations trace the dark-skinned Hamitic lineage to very specific regional and linguistic branches in Africa. Ham's line encompasses Mizraim, which are the ancient pre-Arabized Egyptians preserved today in the Coptic Christians. It includes Cush, the ancient Ethiopians, Nubians, and specific Cushitic groups of the Horn of Africa, like the Somali, the Oromo, and the Amhara. It includes Fut, the indigenous Berber and nomadic Tuareg populations of North Africa and the Saharan Sahel. And of course, it includes Canaan, the original tribes who settled the coastal Levant. But let's make sure we don't leave out any Hamitic group. This line also includes the Nilotic and Nilo-Saharan peoples along the Upper Nile Valley and the Sudanic interior. Nations like the Dinka, the Nuer, and the Luo, and the Maasai who still live in the literal biblical heartland of Cush. And finally, the Khoisan populations, the indigenous click-speaking peoples of southern Africa who represent a massive ancient migration of Kush that took place long before the Shemitic Bantu expansion ever moved down the continent. Now, let's look closer at how these populations intersected, because this reveals a much deeper layer of the diaspora. To understand how the true people of Judah arriving from the Portuguese ships met the populations already waiting in the African interior, we have to clear up a massive geographical anomaly. There are actually two distinct lands of Canaan. By divine decree, the drawing of lots after the flood, the original land lawfully designated for Canaan and his descendants was the continent of Africa, situated entirely to the west of Egypt. But Canaan never occupied this true inheritance. As recorded in the 10th chapter of the book of Jubilees, Canaan looked upon the fertile Levant, which was the lawful inheritance of Shem, and illegally seized it, calling it the land of Canaan. Because of this stolen territory, the true biological Israelites have always had to enter lands associated with Canaan to get their inheritance, encountering this specific bloodline in two completely different regions of the world. So, when those Portuguese exiles from the tribe of Judah were dumped on the West African coast, the interior population they encountered were the descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. These tribes had fled the Assyrian captivity all the way back in 722 BC. If you read the historical records in 2 Esdras 13, it tells you exactly what they did. The scattered tribes resolved to leave the heathen nations behind and journeyed into a further country called Asareth, the deep interior of Africa. This was a land where mankind had never dwelt before, and they went there specifically to keep the holy statutes they had neglected in their own land. And that interior population was supplemented again centuries later, following the final destruction of Jerusalem and the temple by the Roman legions under Titus in 70 AD. Millions of the true people of Judah fled the Roman slaughter, just like the warnings in the Torah said would happen. They migrated south across the Egyptian border. They moved deep into safety of the sub-Saharan African interior along established river networks, deliberately keeping their lineage and identity completely separate from the Hamitic nations around them. But this brings us to one of the biggest mysteries of ancient history. How did the pale, heavy-boned, cave-dwelling hominid variants we call Neanderthals suddenly appear in the northern mountains after the Great Flood supposedly wiped out all the genetic corruption? The answer is hidden in the forbidden genetic and alchemical sciences of the fallen angels, the watchers, which were recovered through a deliberate act of secrecy right under Noah's nose. If you look at the ancient book of Jubilees in chapter 8, it tells us that Noah's grandson, Canaan, who was the son of Arpachshad from the line of Shem, went out searching for a place to build a city. Deep within a mountain structure, he uncovered ancient stone carvings left behind by pre-flood generations. These inscriptions contain the complete forbidden teachings, the astrological blueprints, and the genetic manipulation formulas of the Watchers. Canaan knew his grandfather Noah would execute a fierce spiritual case if he found out this wicked science was back. So he copied the formulas onto a scroll, hid the evidence, and kept completely quiet. See, before the flood, these fallen entities had corrupted all flesh by crossbreeding human biology with beasts. By using these recovered, dug up formulas, ancient practices engineered and brought back to life the altered, heavy, broad, low melanin hominid strains we classify today as Neanderthals. Because these resurrected genetic variants carried the biblical mark of the fallen ones, they possessed a severe intolerance to the direct, intense, ultraviolet rays of the sun. They hated the light, so they migrated far to the north, isolating themselves within the dark, freezing caves of the Caucasus Mountains and Eurasia. Over generations of extreme inbreeding in those low-light environments, their biology locked in the pale skin, the straight hair, and the skeletal adaptations required to survive completely shielded from the sun. This brings us directly to Canaan's rebellion. The geographic relocation of the Canaanites and their physical transformation into a pale population was not a random migration. It was a calculated, spiritually driven move. When Noah woke from his slumber in Genesis 9, he looked at the newborn Canaan and cursed him instantly because he recognized the resurfacing physical traits of that pre-flood Nephilim corruption. The latent traits had successfully boarded the ark through Ham's wife, who descended from these pre-flood societies. Canaan was raised under the maternal whispers of his mother, who held the memories and the law of those ancient, powerful pre-flood civilizations. Fascinated by his lineage, Canaan grew up obsessed with that power. When Noah divided the earth by a holy oath, assigning Africa to Ham's sons, Canaan fiercely refused to go south with his brothers Cush and Mizraim. Driven by the whispers of his mother, he illegally seized the Levant allotted to Shem and pushed his clans far to the north, directly abutting the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains, specifically to be close to those pure engineered Neanderthal creatures hidden in the rocks. Now, Let's clear up a major question that stops any loopholes or doubts. If the true Shemitic Israelites in the African interior are completely free of Neanderthal DNA today, how did they avoid it when they intermarried with the Canaanites? We have to look at when and where this happened. When the Israelites first entered the Promised Land during the era of Joshua and the Judges, the Canaanites living there were still in their original dark-skinned state. They hadn't changed by northern genetics yet. When Israelite men heavily intermarried with these black Canaanite women, as recorded in Judges 3 verse 5 to 6, both parents were highly melanated and completely free of northern cave genetics. That is why this early lineage carried 0% Neanderthal DNA. But what happened to the remaining Canaanites who did not marry into Israel? They stayed behind on the Levant soil when the Israelites fled into Africa. They had no reason to live. Over the next several centuries, these stationary coastal and northern Canaanite branches, like the Sidonians and the Phoenicians, were repeatedly overrun by pale Indo-European invaders. They intermarried heavily with the lines of Japheth, the Hittites, the Greeks, the Romans, and the cave-derived strains moving down from the Caucasus. Through the prolonged intermixing, they completely absorbed the mutated SLC24A5 and SLC45A2 genes directly from those Neanderthal strains. This genetic handover permanently restricted high melanin production, trading natural sun protection from the pale skin and straight hair needed to survive in low sunlight environments. This continuous mixing over thousands of years is what formed the ancestral baseline of the modern-day pale Levantine populations. And this is exactly what explains the current ancestral makeup of the modern Levant outside of Israel today. You have the core Shemitic, non-Abrahamic lineages like Aram, Asher, Moab, Ammon, and the clans of Ishmael, interwoven with the biology of the ancient Canaanites who chose to stay behind and merge with the pale offspring of the Watchers' hidden knowledge.
When you look at the raw data, scriptural timeline, and the historical records, the puzzle pieces fall into place. The post-flood world was reshaped by divine allotments, human rebellion, forbidden census, and migrations. The true Shemitic Israelites maintained their highly melanated identity by moving deep into Africa, isolated from northern cave genetics. Meanwhile, the Levant underwent major genetic changes through Canaan's rebellion and intermixing with resurrected Neanderthal lineages. This hidden history challenges mainstream narratives. It forces us to look beyond modern labels and reevaluate humans' genealogical map. The truth is recorded, provable, and restores clarity to who we are. Thank you for watching. If this changed how you see history, stay tuned because the next breakdown goes even deeper.